everyone. Veronica Crozier here with Active Southern West Virginia, bringing you this month's Workplace Wellness Topic of the Month. This month we're going to talk about compassion fatigue, and joining us today we have a special guest speaker, Merritt, who's going to share a little bit more on the topic with us. Hi Merritt, thanks for joining us.
Hello Veronica, appreciate your time.
So Merritt, can you tell us a little bit more about your role and what it is that you do?
Yes, I work for the Bureau of Behavioral Health, which is part of the Department of Health and Human Resources. I'm out of the Charleston office, of course, working from home nowadays. And I am the state path contact. I work, my main job responsibility is working with persons experiencing homelessness. And these folks either are experiencing homelessness or an imminent risk for homelessness, and they have a mental health condition and or a mental health and substance use disorder. And part of my additional responsibilities are doing programs and presentations on compassion fatigue, and we'll go into that.
Thanks, Merritt. That is incredibly important work that you do. So thinking about that, what is compassion fatigue and how does that play a role in your work?
Compassion fatigue refers basically to problems that helpers, caregivers have as they listen to traumatic stories of their clients, and it builds up and it causes symptoms of fatigue, similar to depression and things of that nature, and it can impact their work and their personal health and wellness, and it's really an issue today. I know I've been in this field for over 30 years, and I've experienced times in my career that I've experienced compassion fatigue, and it's really quite draining.
So why is compassion fatigue so important? And are there ways that we can identify if we might be experiencing compassion fatigue or someone we know might be?
Compassion fatigue really impacts the work that helpers do. It can affect your passion, enthusiasm for what you want to do. You know, if you're a helper, if you're a therapist, a counselor, caseworker, a peer recovery specialist, you want to impact the people you're working with. You want to help them make a difference. That's why you get into this field. But over time, day after day and story after story, and most of our clients have experienced a lot of trauma in their lives. And as they relate those traumatic stories to us, we have empathy, we care, and we feel the impact of that. And it plays a role, it takes its toll, if you will, on the caregiver. So we really need to be in touch with our body, with our mind, and our spirit, so that we can take steps to reduce the impact so we can continue to do the work to help others.
And for employers who believe their employees might be doing work that puts them at a higher risk of compassion fatigue, or if they see maybe something in their employees' personal lives that could be affecting them, are there services or strategies they can implement to kind of help mitigate or help their employees deal with compassion fatigue?
Absolutely. It's a very good question. Some employers are a little more in touch with their employees, and when they see employees, their production lagging off, they see a lack of enthusiasm for their work. You know, they isolate themselves. They do things like they don't take lunch, and you know, they're just they're so consumed with the work that they lose the pleasure, what we call compassion satisfaction, which is one of the things that insulates the caregiver from falling prey to the symptoms of compassion fatigue. And so they can bring this to the attention of the employee, have a conversation. They really should be having ongoing conversations as a supervisor, but they can ask, how you doing? I've noticed some things. Is there anything we can do to help you? They need to be aware of the structure of the work, make sure caseloads are not too high, make sure there's some wellness activities that are implemented, maybe even a time. I know one of the employers I worked with in my career had a wellness time. They called it health style, and they would actually allow employees to take about an hour of work time, paid time, and take a walk or go to a gym or do something enjoyable for their own wellness. And that kind of stuff is very progressive and can help employees to take care of themselves, essentially to take care of themselves so that they can do this work long term and not burn out and have to change professions or even maybe seek professional help.
And so we've talked a lot about professions that, due to the nature of the work, it's very likely that those employees will be at a risk for compassion fatigue. Is it possible for just the average person, maybe in a different job that may seem less at risk for compassion fatigue, is it possible they could still experience that from things going on in their personal life? Is it something that all employers should be conscious of at the workplace?
I think so. You don't have to be a counselor, a helper, a physician, a psychiatrist to experience compassion fatigue. You might be a front office employee at an attorney's office or even at a physician's office, and so you're not involved in direct care. However, in the waiting room, you can hear a lot of stories about clients and their problems and their difficulties, and you're not in a position to give counsel, but you listen. And in the meantime, you may be answering the phone and doing your administrative duties, but you hear a lot of stuff, and you might even suffer from compassion fatigue. So uh, you might be a hairstylist and you hear a lot of stories, or a barber, and you hear a lot of stories about people's pain. And virtually any occupation is subject to compassion fatigue and really need to, some more than others, but I think everyone can suffer from the stories of people's pain, and they need to be in touch with that and take care of themselves.
So Merritt, for someone who just listened to this and is hearing about compassion fatigue for the first time, what would you say is perhaps one of the most important takeaways for them?
That's a very good question. I think they really need to be in touch with their spirit, their soul, and their body. If they are having trouble sleeping, if they're having trouble, they're isolating themselves from friends or family. They can't remember the last time they did something fun. They really don't have non-work interests and friendships, and they're maybe getting down and depressed and losing interest in things that were once pleasurable. I think these are all symptoms that they may need to talk to someone. They may need to get some help uh, to combat that before it gets worse.
Thank you, Merritt. And last question, if someone wanted to find out more, is there a place that you would direct them or any resources you'd like to share?
Uh, yes, there's several. There's a researcher named Charles Figley that has done compassion fatigue research for several decades, and he has a website, and that's basically the basics of compassion fatigue and some of the studies that he's done with people that have suffered compassion fatigue. That's a good place to start. There's another website called compassionfatigue.org, part of the Compassion Fatigue Awareness Project. I would recommend that. And compassionunlimited.com. That's a PhD gentry, and he is also someone that would be a good resource for someone that wants to learn more about this subject. I might add that I am available to do presentations on site or perhaps by Zoom to your organization. So I'll just put that out there. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you so much, Merritt, and thank you all for watching. You can find more of those resources that Merritt shared and resources from Active in our blog, which we'll link with this video, and take care.